Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to have Jessi and Ari Adler, co-founders of Trekkers. Guys, first of all, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me today.
Thanks, Tom. We're glad to be here.
So, you guys have a really unique story, and we're going to get into it, but I have to set it up with the following. I met Jessi through the podcast world because she helps companies or a company guests on the podcast and a variety of other strategies. Ari is retired, but has a great backstory that I'm going to touch on because I'm a political junkie as well. So, Ari, let's start with you. Tell us your last paid gig.
Well, I do freelance work now, so I'm practicing retirement, I think is how Jesse puts it. But previously my last official corporate type gig was I was the press secretary for the governor of Michigan. I have a background in public and media relations and journalism actually, and I have worked for state legislature and the executive branch, the executive office, and also state department in Michigan. So I have a long history of service in state government.
Jesse, what's your current gig?
So I am currently the director of media relations at Platform PR, and as you said, because we met through the podcasting world, I help all of our clients, which are mostly in the legal technology fintech space, get media relations through earn journalism, trade shows, or trade publications, podcasts, different opportunities. And so when I first started looking, so I also had been in state government and higher ed for years, and just wanted a different change. It was something, called to me and I said I just didn't really want to do the corporate grind anymore. So while I'm still doing it, I guess, I'm doing it remotely. And Platform is a completely virtual PR company. We do not have an office to go to at all. It's wherever our houses happen to be, and my house happens to be in a trailer. And so that's, how we got started on this is that we realized once both of us were working remotely in our own house, what was keeping us in that house? And so we decided that we were going to take our jobs on the road. And that's what we've been doing for about 4 years.
And that's actually how we physically met because you guys were down at LBJ State Park for to help out through the eclipse. And we were able to get together and actually physically meet. I guess you now have to say virtually meet and physically meet. And I heard this great story. So you decided you could work remotely. What led to first of all, let's explore your work at the state park. What's that? I've met several people who volunteer at national parks and will be on for 3 to 6 months. Is that what you guys are doing, or is it something different?
It's very similar. We still have a home in Michigan, and most of our family's in Michigan. So we tend to be back there late fall into the holiday season. And then as soon as it starts to turn wintry in Michigan, we bail. And so we will head out somewhere where it is much warmer for the winter. And for the past couple years now, 3 years, we've been doing either Florida or Texas. And in Texas in particular, what we've been able to find is by volunteering at a state park, you become a park host. So you're either a park host where I work on the maintenance team, for example, at LBJ State Park, or if you are in a state park that has a campground, you might be a campground host, helping campers with setup and check in and that sort of thing, and helping to maintain everything. And usually, what happens is you earn a site, so you get a full hookup site for your RV, and you put in Texas's case, it's usually around 24, 25 hours a week per site. And that's how it works. And so we basically stay rent free for the winter by me working on the maintenance team.
And are you doing your remote work at this time, or are you doing, work at the state park, or what else might you be doing?
Oh, I'm doing both. So I'm juggling my full-time 40 plus hour a week PR job, Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I'm helping out at the park. So here at LBJ, what's really cool is they have a living, working historical farm where you have interpreters dressed up in period appropriate clothing. We have live animals. And so I spend most of my Sundays working at the farm, giving demonstrations and tours to the people who visit, explaining to them what life was like in 1918 in hill country when the German settlers had come in and they were trying to establish the land. And so it's a far cry from what Ari's doing on the maintenance team, but I love history and I love that kind of thing. And so it's a nice reprieve from the daily grind of the PR world to like put myself back in 1918 with a slower pace and a wood burning stove and manual chores outside. And so it's just kind of a nice blend for me to be able to do that. And we say we kind of escape the winter, but we do travel year round. And for instance, last summer we camp hosted in Utah, and that was a park that did have a campground. And so we were more responsible there for, like I said, checking in campers, dealing with fire pits and registration and showers and all the different things, and telling the visitors, here are things to do in the area. And, if they had an issue with their trailer in the middle of the night, how could we help them? So it is a little bit of a blend. And so, yeah, I have to balance like my real job with my other real job of the park hosting. But that's why I actually love my employer, because they really appreciate what I do, and my clients love what I do. And they always, like, the first question anytime I get on the phone with a client is, "Okay, where are you? What's happening? What are you doing now?" And so it's just kind of a neat story to tell, and a better appreciation for the world we live in, that we're able to have this, like, work-life balance that, you know, that we didn't necessarily used to be able to have. And I do wanna kind of give a shout out to my boss, because she started this company about 10 years ago. So we were virtual pre-COVID. Didn't really change anything for us in particular, other than the rest of the world finally understood what we had been preaching for years, which was, you don't have to be in a brick and mortar office to do your job. And so for Ari and I, it's the perfect way for us to travel and see the world and still pull in an income.
When it's funny you brought up work-life balance, because I was gonna do that. One of the tricky things now is that balance of we often are traveling and we're in beautiful places, and it's a struggle sometimes for you to kinda hunker down and say, "I've gotta get my work done," or you've gotta be on meetings and that kinda thing all day long. But, the advantage is then when you clock out at the end of the day, we're somewhere usually amazing, that we can go for a hike, or on the weekends, we'll already be in a location like a national park or someplace more remote where we can get out hiking, and so that's what we love to do, and that's what we've really enjoyed.
So tell me about your experience around the eclipse at the LBJ State Park.
It was great. The weather could have been a little clearer, but as the folks who are around here know, it was a little cloudy, but we had some breaks. But, being on the maintenance team, we ended up spending months really preparing for that, making sure that things were up and operational all across the park, that we had enough signage everywhere for everyone, that we had one main field that we mowed down to make sure people had somewhere to sit and watch the eclipse. And also had to set things up to protect the wildflowers. LBJ State Park is known for its field of wildflowers, so we had to make sure that was all protected. So every day there was something new on the board that we had to do to prepare for it. But everybody, we had a great experience in terms of getting ready, but we had a great experience afterwards too. We fully expected, with the number of people we had, that the day after the eclipse was going to be cleanup day, not just tearing down some of the temporary signs and barriers that we had put up, but also dealing with trash and just what happens when you have a large crowd. And a shout out to everybody who came to the park for the eclipse. We did not have much cleanup at all. A few random things here and there, but we organized to go out and really sweep everything, and there was really not a whole lot to do. So thank you so much to everyone that took care of the park while they were visiting.
Yeah, I think the eclipse was something special. I know that's, we had made reservations, or I guess not reservations. We had made arrangements 2 years ago to be here at LBJ, specifically at this time period, to be here for the eclipse, because we personally wanted to see it. But it was also just amazing to be part of that prep work. As anybody in Hill Country knows, I mean, they'd been having emergency management planning meetings for years on this. And I think we all prepared for the worst. And because of that, nothing happened. And that was a good thing, because if you hadn't planned, I'm sure things would have gone wrong. But by over preparing and having that great crew, both, in Kerrville and in Fredericksburg and in Stonewall and Johnson City and all the places around, everybody was very prepared. And it was so much fun. And I think from our vantage point, yes, it was a little bit cloudy, but we still saw it. And the crowd cheer when it finally happened, like everybody that was sitting out in their lawn chairs, everybody just like was like, and, like, clapping, and that was what made it all worthwhile. And so I'm so glad that we made that decision 2 years ago to come back to this area and be here for that, because I think it's just the overall experience was what really mattered.
At lunch, I happened to be sitting next to the chief of police at a Rotary meeting, and we talked about his experience during the eclipse. And he said almost what you said, that was, it was a 2-year prep, but because of that, they went off without a hitch. Obviously, the crowds were much smaller, but he said, "You cannot believe preparation you have to go through, no matter how many emergency management classes you've had until you actually do it, but that they think they now have the template if anything else ever came up, that they would know how to do it, and that just the whole process was very beneficial for emergency services and law enforcement in both counties."
Oh, that's really interesting. I think Ari and I both can attest to being in the media relations world for years, crisis communications and crisis planning was always something that we had to do. I worked at a Big 10 university for a number of years, and every year we did a different crisis training plan. And that is a testament to those all of the folks that are on those plans for that reason. And so that's I think it for me a little better appreciation now having gone through a big event like that, that is why you prepare. And so I'm glad to hear that. That's really cool that they're ready for that now.
Let's turn to the other part of your world, which is the travels you guys wanna do, and Trekkers. So, I'm just gonna kinda turn it over. What is Trekkers? What are you trying to do? Is it just sharing your love of nature and travel, or is it something else?
It is a lot of sharing our love of nature and travel and hiking, and I think we get a big joy out of inspiring people, and we hear from them that we've inspired them to go see something different or try something different. It all started in it was 2019, so we kicked off the
2019.
channel. We had this crazy idea. We were in Michigan at the time, and it was the 100th anniversary of the state park system in Michigan. And I came home and I had this idea and ran it past Jessie, and she was crazy enough to say, "Yeah, let's do it." And it was, what if we went to every state park in Michigan and helped them celebrate and kind of reviewed the parks? And so we set up this channel and kicked it off with the idea that there are 103 state parks in Michigan. We visited all of them within 1 year, and we did a video and a review of all of them, telling people what's there, what's the camping like, what's to do in the area, that sort of thing. And we got that done. We always tell people there's a lot of great state parks in Michigan. We recommend you visit all 103. We do not recommend you do it in 1 year. That was a lot, but that's really how we kind of kicked off. And then we got done, and people were like, "Well, now what's the next state you're going to?" And so we decided to keep the channel going, and we've just continued to share our travels and the hiking that we find and the parks we visit, and it's been a good experience.
Yeah, I think and that was when I wasn't remote at that point in time. I was working at a brick and mortar place where I had to go every day. And so fitting in 103 parks pretty much on weekends and vacation time only was a bit of a challenge. But that was really one of the impetuses for finding that different lifestyle. It picked up the bug for us of like, we really want to do this full time. And so that's how I landed at Platform was I spent not only did I spend all of 2019 visiting 103 state parks, but I spent the year looking for a new job. And so it was all right, I have parameters, I know what I want to do, I have a focal point, I have a passion, and I found that job and platform. And so now that's where we at. But I think for us, our we have our truckers brand and our slogan is hike, camp, and boldly go. And for us, it's okay, how many different places and it yes, literally those are the things, but it encompasses so much more. All of our hiking adventures, it doesn't matter if it's maybe just say like walking a river trail or hiking to the top of a mountain. It's all the same to us. It's just getting out there and exploring and enjoying new places. The camping in beautiful places. Like Ari said, I may be working, but I'm waking up, in Big Bend National Park, or I'm waking up in the Smoky Mountains, or somewhere, along a river. And then the boldly go is just seizing life by, and just going and doing whatever that is. And it means something different to every person because whether it's a mobility reason or an accessibility or a geographic reason, but it's just taking those opportunities and going and doing your thing. And, for us, it's traveling on the road. But for some people that don't have that opportunity because their kids are still in school or maybe they work at a job that has to be done in person, when can you do those opportunities? And so inspiring them to get out on their weekends and their vacations and get outside their comfort zone and go, boldly go do something and live life to its fullest. Because unfortunately, we've had some maybe unfortunate deaths in the family all too early where you don't know what's coming tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to live to full retirement or even, past your 20s. And so for us, we didn't wanna wait, and that's what our channel and that's what our lifestyle is really all about, is not waiting till tomorrow, it's doing it today.
So, how about top 3 places for each of you?
Top 3 places. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say hill country is one of them. I mean, there was a reason we came back here. Part of it was the eclipse, but also we had no qualms about saying, "Let's sign up again for this state park. Let's come back to hill country." In part because the last time we were here was during the major drought when you had no rain coming down here. Everybody kept talking about the wildflowers, and we'd see little tiny bunches and say, "Oh, yeah, those are pretty." And then this year, we finally realized what you mean by fields of wildflowers. It's just
Oh, that's
amazing. So
gorgeous.
it's a beautiful area, and there's a ton to do around here. And then I fell in love with Utah last summer. There's just so much there. Everybody talks about the big 5 national parks that are there, but there's so many amazing state parks and just little random areas to go out and boondock in the middle of the night with no lights on, no light pollution and seeing the Milky Way and it's just beautiful.
That was 2. What's your third?
That's 2. What's the 3rd? I don't know. I'm gonna let you go and say at
Uh-oh.
least 2, and then I'll think about what my 3rd one is.
All right. So I was gonna say Utah, but you took that one, and it could be, but I'm gonna go a different route. So I'm gonna say this in a different way. After we did the 103 state parks, everybody asked us what was our top state park in Michigan. And we ended up actually doing a whole separate series on what are our top state parks in different categories. Because like a lot of places, even Texas, your state parks are very different. And so we kind of took maybe what's best for families, what's best for hiking, what's best for kayaking, whatever. So taking that sort of angle to this. Um, my favorite state park in Michigan, I'm just going to use that, is Porcupine Mountain State Park. It's now that I've been other places with real mountains, I understand that ours maybe aren't so big, but the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is just gorgeous, especially in the fall when you have the color changing leaves and there's this it's called Lake of the Clouds and it's just gorgeous overlook with this lake. And so that will always be at the probably top of heart for me. It's always one of my happy places and some place that we love to get back to. So that's always top of my list. But then going from that, national park wise, I'm actually going to choose Great Basin in Nevada, which we visited while we were in Utah, but it's not in Utah, it's in Nevada, right across the border. It is on the top 10 least visited parks in the national park system because it's kind of remote, hard to get to. But it has a glacier, it has an underground cavern with like stalactites that you can go into, it has an alpine lake, it has the wildflowers. It was just gorgeous. And to me, that just sort of epitomizes the entire national park system and why we have saved all of these over the years. Because and I really wish more people would get there, although we'll keep it a secret so that they don't, so it stays pristine. But that's my let's see, that's 2. And let's see, what would be my third favorite place?
I was thinking you were gonna go with, like, Glacier or
Glacier, I would
Badlands. That's the ones you tend to pull out.
Glacier's probably my other one if I had to choose. And it's very for similar reasons, I think.
Yeah, it's very unique, and that I guess if I had to pick one in particular, I would say I mean, Yellowstone was our first national park, right? And I've always enjoyed Yellowstone. I think there's just a lot.
That's not true, but sort of.
Oh, that's true.
We've
Yeah,
tried.
we talked about that. But it because there's so many different things there to do as well, just sort of the ecosystem that's there and the environment and the nature, and there's just a lot of different you could spend days, and I think when we've done a trip there, we took our daughter there a number of years ago, and she graduated high school, and we spent, I don't know, 10 days or something just in that park, just exploring in a different direction every day because it's so big. So that I think that would be one I would choose.
Yeah, I think so. It gets hard after, there's what 63 official national parks. There's 300 some national park units. Then there's every state has, 100 some state parks and then there's just the roadside attractions. And honestly, sometimes I might just say my favorite thing is the roadside attractions that we see everywhere because whether it's Cadillac Ranch or it's the Gemini sculptures that are everywhere, the old Mufflerman sculptures, the world's largest ball of twine, what have you. Those are the things that make road tripping fun and the travels.
Well, and I think if you're willing to take advantage of that when you're traveling too, and that's something that we do, we will kind of joke about, oh, it's the world's largest ball of twine, but we stumble upon some of the most unique and strange things that you would ever think of. And one I'm thinking of is it's the geographic center of North America,
America.
right? Is in Rugby, North Dakota. For some reason, I remember that. We have a picture. It's just this little monument in a parking lot that somebody put up, and we have a picture with it. And it's like, I never really thought, what's the geographic center?
Of
North
Not
America.
the US.
And it
America, yeah.
wasn't planned, it was just something we spotted as we were going through town. We might have been getting gas or something, I don't even remember, and we're like, "Let's document this." So it's just really strange, all the amazing things you find out there.
It's the what's the one we saw last summer through Nebraska? A spot on the Oregon Trail where you can still see it's just at a rest stop, but you can still see the ruts where the Oregon Trail and the wagons went through, and, I mean, that's just history, and I think we love that kinda stuff, so we're total geeks when it comes to, like, pulling off and seeing history being made,
Yeah. And we also tend to the other thing we do is we often try to visit state capitals. Whenever we are anywhere near a
Mhm.
capital, we will try to pull off and go visit it, and I think it's because we have a background in state capitals, and we've worked in Michigan's capital for years, and so it's always unique or interesting to see how some of them are unique, some of them are very similar, but it's just a great way to learn about a state, to learn about its people and its history, so it's a great way to wrap that all up in one tour.
Guys, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode, but before we leave, if listeners or watchers wanted to check out Trekkers, what would be the best place for them to go or way for them to do so?
I think the 2 best places to find us would be on YouTube. Our channel is Trekkers with 1 K, and then the other place would be our website, and that's trekkers.org, and that's a great hub for all of our information of what we're doing for blogging and information about us and links to everything else that we have out there in the social media world as well.
Yeah, we do blogs, we do product reviews as well, so of our camping gear, the things that we use in our trailer, so I think that, yeah, that's a good place to find us, and obviously all the social media channels as well, but and shoot us an email, we always wanna hear everybody else's story, and so I always we just wanna hear from people.
What's your email then?
Truckersorg@gmail.com.
Right. Well, guys, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with us. I hope we can continue this conversation.
This is
Great,
great.
thank you,
Thank you.
Tom.